I finally did it. I completed my island of Chunk, which has 20 different Animal Crossing island themes, and now it's time to do the tour. Before we get into that, huge thank you to Betty for doing my flag here. I wanted something that had lots of different themes on it, so I think that really has captured what this island is about. If you haven't been following the progress of this island, you can go back and watch the whole playlist of how I did it. I will link the playlist in the description below, but don't forget to like and also subscribe. I have a new challenge on the way very soon. So as always, before we get into the tour, let's take a look at this map. There's not going to be much to look at on this map, to be honest, because everything is divided up into squares, and that's all you need to kind of think about. Also, don't pay much attention to the villagers. Honestly, when creating this island, I was not kind of focusing on them. I purely wanted their houses for aesthetics. Curly is definitely a rogue choice for me. I've never had them on an island. So with the map out of the way, here is the entrance. This is my forest core chunk, which was one of the very first chunks that I did, and for this, as you expect, it's going to be quite overgrown, lots of trees, so I just kind of carved out a little bit of an entranceway here, which makes you feel like you're fresh out of the airport, or people waiting here for the airport, or maybe for their bus home. And this is very kind of neutral. There's lots of whites in here, there's some custom designs on the ground. You might find some wildlife if you look hard enough, or you might find a Marcel smelling flowers. Either way, it works. The dirt path here is really nice, and there's kind of a little bit of an opening here in the forest where you can kind of sit after a nice hike. One thing that I do want to show you is if I come down here and hop over this way, is just this kind of like line of nature, I guess. I just really like the way that it looked with all the flowers and the different like aspects of the forest. Oops, I didn't mean to scare the bug. But you have like vines, mushrooms, the log. I just really is quite satisfying to my eye. I don't know, I just really like the tree edge there. Maybe that's a little bit odd, but hey, I like the nature. Is that too hard to ask? And then it kind of flows back here, and this is where we have a little bit of a duck pond. Marcel is now fishing. I'm glad to see he's making use of the space. And over on the right, it does lead to resident services, but I'm not going to go that way. We're going to go back around this way and through and up through the forest. As you can see, there's so many trees here. There is a tiny bit of terraforming, but this island doesn't honestly have very much. So that's the end of the forest core chunk, and then we move into farm core. I really like how this whole left-hand side of the island flows, and it feels very more natural on this side as opposed to the right-hand side, which might feel a bit more put together. But as you can see, we have a pumpkin farm over on the right-hand side here. I feel like I'm doing really well with my left and rights at the moment. One thing I do love to do when doing pumpkin farms is just mixing and matching like different furniture pieces with the actual kind of real life crops. I know they're not real life, but you know what I mean. And we also have a little farmer stall up here selling their wares, their crops, their bounties. And over on the left hand side, we have another farm area, which is just a little wheat field over here. And then I do have Shep's house here as well. He is one of my favorites, always one that I think of when I think of farm core, so I had to include him. He has a little bit of a shed next to him, which I thought was nice, and there is some like farm wares. So we've got the silo and the windmill as well. And then what would a farm chunk be without a million wheat fields? Okay, it's not quite a million, but it's a lot of wheat fields. And the tractor, I love this design. I've done it a few times. I think it was one of my viewers that mentioned it as well. But just using that merchandise table and having it as a trailer on the back of the tractor is so cute. So there we go. And then as you can see, that's another chunk down. So that's 2 themes down. And now we move into autumn core. So maybe core doesn't need to go on the end here, but I did want to include some seasonal kind of chunks on this island. And for autumn, I feel like normally I would go for very much like oranges and yellows, but famously I don't really like the color red, so I really wanted to do an orchard. but I thought the best way to kind of tie it all in and make it clear that this is all one chunk is to have the red of the apples kind of flowing throughout the area. So at the beginning here we have a little bit of a picnic area, which is kind of cute, and then it flows round. This was a bit of an odd space, but because I'm using lots of red, I thought it would be nice to have a little bit of a mushroom forest here. And then over across, we have just a little kind of like setup here with like everything autumnal. So a nice pie, some nice apple jam, some apples. It's kind of like a shop, but also not. I thought it might be like a nice storage area. And then here is the orchard itself. I love orchards. I think they're like an OG type of build. We were all doing them back in 2020, but you can really elevate it with those little details. So like the ladder, the little cardboard box with the dropped fruit, even the stacked bags here as well. I just love it. Love, love, love an orchard. So something very different, maybe a bit brighter, is this chunk, which is a festival section. So I did a whole festival island called Melody, which was very purple and orange. So I wanted to do that again, but explore it with a different color theme. So I've done that with yellow and green, and it does have a whole different vibe to it. It really does feel like it's in spring, which I kind of love. Obviously, we have some festival staples here. We've got the little tents on the right hand side, which I thought was kind of cute. We have a little shop merchandise area for all your festival needs. Obviously, rain boots are a must if you're attending a festival in the UK. And some more tents over on this sand side. And the festival stage itself is using the campsite, and then I've just kind of added onto it with a little bit of a deck, custom design, a microphone, some of these things. Someone in the comments, oh my gosh, I can't remember your name, but they did tell me to rotate these, and now I've just suddenly remembered. I'm gonna do it now, just before I forget. I am not a singer. I am not musically talented at all. So there you go. I hope you're watching. If you are, let me know. But yeah, the stage, this I did on my festival island, and I just think it's a great way to use the campsite if you don't want it to act as an actual campsite. And obviously food, we need some food trucks here. And then I did tie in my peninsula, which is outside the chunk. Do not shout at me, but I love a good portaloo. So we have a portaloo section, and I guess festivals are famous for their portaloos and how smelly and stinky they are. So there we go. They're far away from the campsite, so hopefully the smell does not linger. Apologies if I'm bringing back flashbacks that we would all like to forget about. And then after the festival, you can head into the swamp, and here is my brother's tent. I didn't want to upgrade it on this island, so we do have him stuck in the tent here, and as you can see, there's lots of nature. I can hear all the animals or the bugs around. There's definitely a bell cricket around. I was a bit nervous about doing this theme, I will be honest, because when I've seen swamps that I really love and admire, they normally use custom designs, but I have had to use the terraforming here, mainly because I didn't have the space to be able to give that many custom designs for a whole water path. So there is some quite interesting terraforming as I tried to get as many kind of ponds in as I possibly could. But yeah, there's not a lot going on here because the museum takes up so much space, and obviously the water terraforming, but I really hope it gives that swamp feeling. It's very green, which I do love. And then kind of keeping ish on theme with that is the trash core abandoned kind of section. This is home to Dobby, however you want to say it, and I put him up on this little kind of cliff area because he is like the king of the trash. So he's up here overlooking all of the trash, all of the abandoned stuff. As you can see, we have like a little car area where he can do some repairs on the car if he wants to, although I don't think that's going to be back up and running anytime soon. And then there is just like an abandoned recycled like furniture area over here, a big kind of, I don't know if that's a bulldozer, I don't know the technical term for it, kind of pushing all the trash to make room for more trash. And there is a little mining area I don't know why, but it felt a little bit more industrial, so I added that in. And then there is the work shed space area back here with a DIY bench and some paint and whatnot, and the secret beach is right here, so I decided to kind of keep that theme going, and then it just flows a little bit nicely back here. So let's get back to some civilization as we kind of move into more kind of the built up area. This was my attempt at normcore. Now I know it's not normcore, but we're going to call it elevated normcore. For some reason, normcore is not something that I really kind of associate with. So it's kind of my take on normcore. So we have 2 villager homes here. And we have Blair. I think the other one is Olive. The houses are really nice together. But I just wanted like simple yards like we had back in 2020. So we just have like the dog kennel and also like the washing area. And then there's a little bit of like a nice open seating area down here. Again, something that I feel would be quite at home in 2020. So that's really where I've gone for with this. I know it probably didn't fit the theme, but hey, allow me a little bit of creative freedom. And then over to the left here, we have cottagecore, which is one of the themes I love the most. And I went maybe a little bit crazy here, trying to get in like a million different builds into this tiny chunk. So we have a lavender farm. I wanted to kind of, one of the builds that I think about most when I think about like cottagecore is probably like washing laundry areas, but because I had just done that in the yard here, I had to get a bit more creative. So we have a lavender field, which I did on one of my very first ever islands. And then we also have a little mini apiary here, which again is something that was like a staple for me back when I did my like first couple of islands. It was always on my kind of builds and build list and whatnot. And then this kind of setup is probably something I've done a million times, but it's just so cozy. You have the rocking chair, the books, the wide brim straw hat, and now the decorative bottles, which I guess are a newer addition. And then we have a sewing area down here as well, which I just thought was cute. It's very cottagey and I love it. I know it's a bit odd sewing outside, but it is what it is. And there is a duck pond here as well. So there's so much going on here, but I hope it fits the cottagecore brief. I think it does for that one. And then very randomly, perhaps, we are moving into winter. Boy, did I struggle with this chunk. I don't know what I struggled with or why. I've probably created about 4 market spaces during my time in Animal Crossing for Christmas and winter, but this one was just not happening. So this is the whole winter space, the market space even. So you've got like toys and decorations, there's some baked goods, and obviously the focal piece, the center point is that Christmas tree. I think what I struggled with most was probably the fake buildings. I just couldn't get the colors to quite sit right, but in the end I kind of went with this design, which I think kind of works, adds in a little bit of snow here and there, and you can also get some little details up on the balcony, which is kind of nice. And then if we go up this incline, this kind of leads to a dead end, and this is medical, which you might be thinking, what on earth is that? To me, this is more kind of muted colors, a lot of flowers, very like open space, nice kind of, muted colors, flowers, wildlife, greenery, anything that kind of is spring, but obviously with lots and lots of kind of open areas. I would say more. It's just, there's red flowers there. Don't look at that. We don't see the red flowers. But yeah, it's just a much more kind of softer take on springcore, maybe, perhaps. And I love the green here. And then back here we do have, I didn't really talk about this. I was too busy talking about what Medicore is to me, and I did a terrible job at it. I didn't explain what this build was. So we have a whole flower field here, but for my flower fields, I do like to break them up a bit. So we've got some wheat fields, there's bushes, butterflies, vines, whatnot. And then in the center, there is like a wishing well, and just some drop bells around the edge, just for like that tiny little detail there. And then the back here is the yard. I can hear a bell cricket yet again. They have literally stalked me on this island. But we have the windmills up here. There is a little bit of like a garden shed set up. And over here is somewhere where Callie can come and enjoy a slice of pie. Very cute little setup. I love the green and the yellows together. Some of my favorite colors. I'm going to get out of here because that noise is very annoying. Okay, and then we run back through the Christmas area, and then we come to the tropical section, which was another section that I struggled with a lot. I just couldn't get this right. I wanted to add a bit of color because it was looking very beige. We have a swimming pool here, which if you want to, you can take a break and relax in. But apart from that, we also have Punchy's house. There's a little kind of changing dressing area over here. Which uses the Azuma, I don't know how you say it, gazebo, because it has that tiki feel to it. And I used that again over here for the tiki bar, where you can come and get some cocktails and whatnot. And there is also a little sunbathing lounge area over here. I really liked the pink and the teal kind of theme. It felt like a little bit bright and colorful, and it was kind of nice to play around with some color. But now I'm still not happy with this area. I'm going to be really honest, but hey, I think it kind of fits. You know, it's representing like summer and tropical, so that should fit. And then Springcore, which I decided to go for more like an Eastery take on this. So for that, we have this little setup with all of the egg stuff. So this is going to be like an egg hunt, and here is where you come and you collect your like prizes, your trophy and whatnot. And then we have a little carrot farm over on the right hand side here. Oh no, what happened to my blanket? I don't know how that happened, but that should be a proper circle. Yeah, but there is a little picnic area. As you can see, there are like the eggs dropped throughout, and it's all very yellow and white, which I love. I love that color palette. It's very pretty. And then through here is, I was going to say tropical. No, we've done that. Is Kidcore, which is very primary colored heavy. I'm not really a big fan of Kidcore, but I do kind of like the way that this turned out. We've got the playground in the middle again with all the bright colors, some fun toys and whatnot, and some fun custom designs on here, like the little juice box. If I had more slots, I would have probably saved a lot more of them. And then back here is like the little picnic area, so you can lay a blanket down, enjoy a snack, or use one of the tables. This is probably really the only theme that I would use these tables in, but they will look really effective here. Just they fit really well with this kind of whole theme. The cutout standees, this is probably like the only chunk where I've used them, but I do think that they look really good for Kidcore. Like, I just love them for that. So that is Kidcore. I'm going to move through down here into, which is more a town built up area where I put in my shop. So we have Able Sisters over on this side. Obviously we have a very road path, like much more kind of city towny vibes. And then on the right hand side we have this little car park area with some cars. I'm gonna have to go around this side, I think, just to show you. Ignore the kind of overgrownness that's here, but we did do like a little fountain section. I played around with this, I redid it, and I'm a lot more happier with this now. It feels like there's more going on. It just felt a bit open before, and that's something hard to contend with when you are a clutter queen like me. And then there is a nice little seating area over here as well. Again, I was very much in the yellow and white feel for this. One of my favorite color palettes. So here is resident services. And because resident services doesn't quite take up a whole chunk, I had to tag on this little build here. I didn't want it to be a waste of a theme, so I've just added in the train station here. I don't really know what else I could have done, but it's just somewhere you can come get a train. We have like the newspapers and also a coffee shop as well, which is kind of fun. And then if we head back through here, we're gonna have to go back through the town section. Look how laggy it is, oh dear. And then into one of my possibly favorite themes ever is coastal. So this is a coastal chunk. Everything's very blue and white. Think fish, think sea. You've got kind of all of that going on here. I really wanted to do like a fake building setup here because I haven't really done it that much, and they're always fun to experiment with. So I wanted to include the lighthouse up top, which I know probably isn't correct. I don't think there's like lighthouses on top of buildings like this, but it's kind of in the background, so maybe it's on like the horizon sticking up above the houses. But there is some like little things up there. It's a bit of a balcony area up there. There's also some fish, which I probably don't recommend having some fish on the balcony. That's not going to smell nice. And there is just some like clutter on the left hand side here. It almost feels like a little bit industrial, but I like that about it. And there is also a mini fishing market here. Fish market, where you can come buy some fresh fish, delicious. And I did have to make use of the kind of river mouth here, so I used the bridge, and then I stopped the bridge at the point where the river ends. So I just added in the custom designs there and also the fences, which I thought looked nice. And down here we have a little space where there's a little bit of a boat repair and also the opportunity to fish on the canal, which I thought was kind of cute. But yeah, I love this. It's so pleasing on the eye, the colours. I think the colours more than anything. And then we move into elegant core. Another theme that I always struggle with because it calls for symmetry, not a lot of kind of like clutter. Sometimes it has to be like more open, so I find it really hard. So we have this little statue area in the middle. Again, ignore the rocks and Chelsea running around down there. Looks like she's having fun. Anyway, we have the statue here and then kind of like a statue garden either side. These really, when you think of an elegant core, I think these are something that I really think of. I changed my mind a few times about what kind of color theme I wanted for this chunk. In the end, I did go with the pink, which I'm more happy with now. I tried to go for like beige, and it just wasn't quite hitting how I wanted it to, but I'm glad I added just a pop of color in, just even if it's like a little bit subtle. We have a bakery on this side, and I did want to get some castle items in, which actually worked really nicely for dividing off the sections. And then on the other side we have a little florist as well. And then the next area is very pink. This is what I will call fairy core. Someone did tell me that they didn't think it looked all that fairy core, but I'm honestly not sure what more I could have done to make it fairy core. It's very pink. Maybe that's where I went wrong. Maybe I should have changed the path or done that a little bit differently, but I don't know. I wanted to include a teddy bear picnic. Maybe this wasn't what they thought of when they thought of fairy core perhaps, but I thought it was a fun little build to add in and take up some space. There's lots of kind of stars everywhere, pink flowers, and we've got like a nice little kind of glowy area down here with some glowing moss, some mushrooms. There's also some butterflies and vines around. And then over here we have a little stargazing spot with that moon chair. It took me forever. I had a mental blank on what the telescope was called. No word of a lie, it took me about 20 minutes to remember what that was called. Very embarrassing. And then back here we have a star fragment farm, which I thought was just a little bit mystical, magical, maybe a little bit of fun, perhaps. And this is, if you want to know whose villager house this is Chelsea, who is one of the Sanrio villagers. And then over on the left hand side we just have some like little natural segments with some butterflies and some more vines. So that is fairy core. And then we move into Japanese, which I kind of like the way that it turned out in the end. I've always been quite nervous about doing like Japanese Asian builds, as I don't want to do them a disservice, but this is Marcel's house, and I could have, yes of course I could have gone for like a city Japanese build, but honestly that's so not me and it kind of scares me. So I went for a more kind of natural take on it, with a noodle bar. I don't know many people that have a noodle bar in their backyard, but this plot does apparently. But I got to use some furniture that I don't normally use, which is always fun. And there's lots of kind of greenery around. There's some like this. I never used this, and I never used these lanterns. So it was a lot of fun to experiment with that. There's also the Torii gates and the Zen kind of fence. And then that brings us kind of to the last chunk, which is very sad. And for the last chunk, I wanted to do something a little bit darker and incorporate a graveyard, because it's like the end of the life of the island. If that's a little bit morbid, I apologize, but that's where my mind went. I was thinking about doing it Halloweeny, but this ended up not very Halloweeny. It ended up more like spooky, witchy, which I'm not mad about. This is the kind of church area. I don't know if you can really see it, but there is a bell up there, which I got inspired by something that I saw on Pinterest, and then I just tried to adapt it a little bit to make it feel more different, like as opposed to like a direct copy. And then over here we have like a little statue garden with some black flowers, a little bit kind of darker, I guess. I also love the goddess statue, and I now know what it does in Zelda. Oh my god, I didn't know it did that though. So apparently this is gives you like life or something, I think is what people said. So it kind of does fit for being here, I guess. And then through here we have like the graveyards, very like overgrown mushy vines. I wanted to add in some glowing moss so it looks really nice at night, as there is quite a few candles here. A little scorpion, so if you get stung by one of them, at least maybe you've got a fresh grave spot nearby. And then there is, I just needed like a little space for the back here, so there is just like a little witchy area coming into the dark woods to cast some spells and brew some potions and whatnot. Does it really fit this area? Probably not, but it's just fun to do some little experimentations. Not everything needs to make sense, does it? So there we go. That is chunk, the finished island tour. You would have seen the dream address at the beginning, but I will remember to put it in the description if you want to come and check it out for yourself, get some inspiration, perhaps decide what kind of themes you want to work through. This was such a fun challenge. I have had so much fun doing it, and thank you to everyone who's watched the videos, said anything lovely in the comments. I really appreciate it. So thank you again. Have a great rest of your day, and I shall see you again soon. Bye bye.